Thank you for joining us. Today we're talking with Julie Johnson about manifesting. Can you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I think of what I do in terms of my highest values and priorities. So, my highest value right now in my life is connection, and that's connection with myself, with the divine, with others, with
Mm.
nature, connection to the different parts of myself that I'm seeing more and more I need to kind of integrate and heal. And so I do that for myself. And then I love to facilitate that for other people.
Mhm.
So I do that through therapy. I'm a licensed therapist. Then I have a private practice, which I just started about a year and a half ago, which is so exciting.
Oh, that is exciting.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thanks. And I also do spiritual and energetic readings and healing, which I
Mm.
often integrate into a therapeutic process, which has been a blast, like a dream come true. And I also facilitate workshops and women's ecstatic dances monthly. So,
Oh, that's fun. Where can we find you?
yeah. So my Instagram is, would you like me to?
Yeah, absolutely. Give it all
Yeah.
the details.
It's Julie_Heart Alchemy. And
Mhm.
that's where you can kind of find updates and things like that. And I have separate websites, one for my kind of licensed therapy activities that are
Mhm.
kind of under that umbrella, and that's Soul Rise Holistic Counseling. And
I
so
love that.
that's at soulrisecounseling.one. And then I have kind of my broader website, heartalchemy.one as well. Yeah, and we're office in downtown Boise. And then workshops and dance are at Portal, Idaho.
Oh, I haven't been there, but I've
Yeah,
seen it and I've heard amazing things, so I've really been wanting to visit.
it's really nice. It's a
Yeah,
good space. It's a good energy. There's lots of different things that they do. They have like
yeah.
regular daily yoga classes as well as all sorts of
Mm,
events and workshops.
yeah,
It's really fun.
that
Uh,
sounds fun. I'll have to go. Well, thank you for coming and sharing your experiences with manifesting because I think so many people are trying to figure it out and there's so much information out there and techniques and advice and guidance and some of it is confusing. So I'd really like to know, what is manifesting to you? What does that mean?
I love the way you described this because I can relate and resonate just so many things in life. What any area of growth in my experience that I'm like, oh, I want to grow in this way or I want to experience
Mhm.
this, or whether it's health or spiritual practices, manifestation, business, I can get so bogged down in the brain candy of it.
Mhm.
Uh, Endless ways and the endless experts.
Yes.
There's so many people who are experts.
Yes.
There are millions of them.
If you pay me this much money, I will teach you how to manifest your
Yeah.
dreams. Yes, I
Which
see
is
it every day.
right. Yeah. It's like if you find somebody who's like, "Oh, I resonate with this and
Mhm.
I trust their approach and this is gonna help guide me and be really focused, like more, right? But
Mhm.
it can be so confusing, I think, because so many people um have, at least these types of people who are presenting in that way, have a very strong sense of knowing of what's right for them. And it can be sometimes shared in a way that's, if it's right for me, it's right for everybody. Or this is the only and best way to do this. And
Yes.
it might be amazing and it may work for a set number of people, but it's certainly not the only way. And this
Mhm.
this applies to like every, in my mind, this applies to every field, like health, nutrition, exercise, manifestation, psychology. Like there's
Yes.
endless people and there's endless ways. So
Mhm.
I love when we talked earlier, you kind of have this attitude as well of like, I know how I manifest, but how do
Yeah.
other people manifest? I
Yes.
love that.
Yeah.
So I guess manifesting to me is co-creation.
Mhm.
My action, intention, choices, decisions, a lot of things going on in me, feelings, beliefs, attitudes, desires, dreams,
Mhm.
combined with the universe for lack of a more specific term, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what I'm choosing and how I'm carving my way, and then also how I'm allowing and surrendering and responding, receiving, connecting with
Mm-hmm.
a spiritual dimension. So
Yes.
yeah.
So tell me something that you feel you have intentionally manifested or co-created in your life.
Mhm. Intentionally is like a good
Yes, because we're always creating,
always
right?
creating.
So
All this
with intention, consciously creating.
yeah, it's interesting. There's just so many things which to
Mm-hmm.
choose. There were things I was intentionally manifesting before I knew the term manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I'll focus on, in the past couple of years when I've been more in that awareness, guess probably the I'm trying to decide whether to jump into like business or love life. I'm gonna go love life.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna go love life because it's one of those things that you have to surrender. You can't control.
Yes.
And you can also um do a lot of active creation
Mm-hmm.
art in my experience. So yeah, I can share about my partner,
Yes.
Alex. Yeah, that was definitely a very spiritual process,
Yeah.
very intentional manifestation, and also process of healing and surrendering and screaming at the heavens, when, why, how? I'm tired of breaking up and being single and then finding somebody and then breaking up with them again. And
Yes. The endless cycle.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in my later 30s,
Mm-hmm.
thing to say, 37.
Yeah.
And I like to tell people that 'cause I look a little bit younger. So people
Mm-hmm.
often think but no, this is my first like time being with a partner where I don't have a part of me that says, this is good for now, but it's not forever. It's not long term. Every other
Mm-hmm.
partner I've ever had, there's been that sense
Mm-hmm.
that it's not that it's not the right thing for that time. It's certainly important and part of my healing and like beautiful relationships I've had. Something in me like
It's not forever. It's not the one or whatever that may mean.
or yeah, the life partner. I've just been
Yeah.
thinking about the person that I'm choosing to commit to for the longer term, create a family with, really join forces and co-create
Mm-hmm.
together. So where do I
Well, I mean, it's funny because I don't know if it's a lot of women, but at least my friends, we talk about our lists that we've
Yes.
created to draw in and other things that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends who have their lists and are, yes.
Kind of waiting.
Yeah. So what kinds of things did you find helped you hone into that person?
So I think I've been through phases in my life where I've had maybe more, trying to think how to put this, like higher vision of who that person might be and high standards for myself, not in terms of like in terms of what that should feel like, I guess. What the connection should feel like, what that alignment would feel like. And I went through a process a few years ago of I had been living overseas for quite some time, had kind of in my mind almost like they were just dramatic, beautiful relationships that were,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not long term. I'd be moving, they'd be moving, and none of them would last the test of something like that, like changing countries or
Yeah.
and I moved back to the States and I looking back, I noticed I had wonderful partners, but it's so weird to say this because it's in no way any offense to them. They're magical, wonderful humans. But for me, each of those couple of people we were settling for something that I'm like, this isn't maybe
Mm.
maybe this is like
Maybe
best
this
I'm gonna do.
could be
This
it.
maybe this could be
If
it.
this and this would change,
Yeah. Or maybe this is all there is.
Mm.
And those people are like someone else's dream coach. Now
Mhm.
looking back, wonderful people. But I think I kind of lowered my dreams, not standards in terms of how I'm treated or how wonderful of a human they are.
Mhm.
And they've each helped me grow and been so much of what I'm looking for. But in terms of that powerful connection,
Uh,
that kind of can we dream and envision and create together, that
uh,
powerful chemistry, that
uh,
magic feeling. And so I was in a relationship with a wonderful human for about a year, and pretty much the whole time I was in this internal tension of I want my person. Part of me deep down, not even that deep, no, this is not my person. My person, the person I'm gonna
yes.
choose, knows that I don't feel like we're gonna move to the next steps. And also feeling like he was right for the time. He was great for my nervous system. So soothing, such a great
Mm,
calming force. And I just liked being in a relationship with
yeah.
him. But I had this internal feeling of like, oh, I know I need to break up. I know I need to break up with him. And have you ever heard of the program To Be Magnetic?
No, what is
Oh, I
that?
think you'd love it.
Yeah.
So it's a self-help company, I guess.
Yeah.
We can find it at tobemagnetic.com, where they kind of advertise it as a manifestation program. And it's ultimately about healing.
Yeah.
So like to bring that in
Yeah.
is they have a lot of kind of it's great for like personal journey. Like
Mhm.
I use that as my own personal kind of therapeutic tool
Uh,
all the time. They have guided meditations and kind of a systematic way of looking at, well, if you want this, first of all, why? Where's it coming from? So helping you dig to what your truest desires are,
mhm.
or owning the whys. Like just being honest with what you want and why. What are the things blocking that from happening? And usually these are opportunities for healing. So it's limiting beliefs or wounds that keep me from really being my fullest self, fears,
Mhm.
all that stuff. And then they also talk about tests, things like that kind of, we get to kind of indicate to the universe if we're ready to take more steps by
Uh-huh.
whether we're really willing to kind of step forward out of our comfort zones and things like that. So
Yeah.
I was doing this program while I was with this person, and I was avoiding one of their workshops, which was Unblocked Love, it's called, because I was like, I'm not ready.
Oh, well,
Not ready to really face what's going on.
yeah.
And I finally got to a place, it was end of summer, like a year and a half ago, or a little over a year and a half ago, where I finally got to the place where I was ready to end that relationship.
Mhm.
Like the day that I made that decision, I think I applied for this awesome, like week-long spiritual retreat a couple months down the road to go just alone. I had this breakup conversation with him, and it was so painful, but we both knew it was the right thing. And I then immediately, had some healing and whatnot, but then immediately jumped into
Mhm.
this workshop to really dig into, okay, what is it that I really, really
Mm.
want? And then I crafted a list.
Yeah.
What's great about the list though is it's like an opportunity to be really honest and say, just
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, that's okay, that's okay." And
Yes.
most of the things are okay, right? It's like
Yes.
there's lots of things that maybe we think are so important in a partner that end up being maybe less important, or things
Mhm.
that, and then of course there's the deal breaker things,
Yes.
or the things that we really dream of, but like, should I really want that? Or can does someone like that really even exist?
Yes.
Making a list was really empowering for me.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think I had often denied what I really wanted.
Mhm.
So that was great. And what's cool is, I think actually, so manifesting, taking a leap, right?
Mhm.
Breaking up with that person was like a opening experience for me. It was me
Mhm.
saying to the universe, okay, I'm ready to leave this comfort zone. I'm ready for
Mhm.
the next thing.
Mhm.
then this, having this intentional process where I'm working on some of these maybe limiting beliefs from childhood or wounds I've had from other relationships or beliefs that, in my own lack of worthiness or things like that. All these things that actually keep us from being open to what's really aligned for us.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yep.
practicing my intuition more and more, practicing connecting with it, practicing kind of listening to those intuitive hits, even if they're not seemingly related to the main thing I'm calling in right now. It's just that practice means I'm more likely to follow that internal guidance or that spiritual guidance to lead me down different paths, open up doors, connect with the right people for all sorts of things,
Yep.
and ultimately for my biggest dreams. So made this list, and within like 2 months, I met like 2 guys at the same time who fit the list. They're so different. It's so funny. Create what seems like a really specific list,
Yes.
and then be like, wow, actually, there's a lot of people who could fit this, who are
Yeah.
pretty diverse.
Yeah.
And so I went to be, and
See a double manifesting
yeah, I was
going
like,
on.
wait, what? Wait, what? And it was great. It was a really good experience because one, so sweet, like wasn't quite like the level of connection I was looking for, but it was really validating and really was soothing and healing to connect with this person. And the other one, we had this intense spiritual connection. It was very intense. And I've had a healer since explained to me like, oh, it's a very karmic relationship. Lasted for about 3 months.
Yeah.
It was dramatic, but very conscious, very loving. And it was just like a trigger factory. It was just like, here's some wounds you need to work on. Just
Yes.
like we had both of us just back and forth.
Yeah.
So it was a safe place to work on a lot of that stuff. So to kind of, I know that I'm telling quite a story here, but for me, it matters to, it's like, this was my process, was the, okay, stepping out of the comfort zone. Okay, this is what I really want. This is how I'm healing. Oh, wow, there's options.
Yes.
Going down the option route. And with this person, there was a part of me that was like, I don't think this is it, but I want it to be.
Yes.
Gosh darn it. But when we decided to kind of make it official, like, okay, let's just dive in. Let's call this, committed monogamous relationship. I had a lot of fear. And I kept saying to myself, like, I can't have another breakup. I can't deal with another breakup. I just can't handle it.
Yeah.
And so the part of me that knew we would break up was freaking out.
Oh.
And the other part of me that knew we would break up but knew that it was the right thing anyway was like, just keep.
Yeah.
Just because you don't know or feel unsure that this is your partner doesn't mean it's not the right thing right now. And ended up being super painful, super dramatic, but so it was a catalyst for so much healing. And we broke up and I had this explosion. It was like this energetic experience of like, it felt like a beam of light coming up out of me of like, I'm ready now. Like I was more ready than I'd ever actually been for my partner to come. And over the next, wasn't even that long. Right? Wait, we broke up end of January. So February, March, April, May, June. So we met 5.5 months later. Partner. During which I was highs, lows, grieving, like going through the whole process of healing from something and calling in the new and experiencing total utter peace in my singleness and experiencing the deepest loneliness I'd ever experienced. It was such a ride.
Yeah.
Beautiful and crazy. And just continuing to lean into the lessons. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned as I've gone down the kind of intentional manifestation path is spiritual perfectionism is a real thing.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
It's so related to what you said earlier about like all these different tools and all these things we can do. Oh my God.
Yes. And then because what I hear you saying is, so you set an intention to create something, you got very specific about it with your list, and then you start down your path and something happens that can help you heal to get closer to the thing you want to create. But in our mind of trying to achieve that perfection, we're like, okay, where did I fail? What did I do wrong? Why is this not working for me? Like, what is going on? Maybe there isn't co-creation, or maybe you get very confused because you can't see the whole picture of what is happening as you're becoming a better person to draw in that perfect partner that you desire. But sometimes that takes more healing or challenges or opportunities or doors opening or moving or different
Or-
crossroads.
Maybe you've done everything you've needed to do and they're not quite ready yet, or they haven't moved to your city yet, or they've just broken up with someone and they just need a little time.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like maybe it has nothing to do with me, but like
It's very
everything
real.
you said, and who knows? I think our guides and angels sometimes are like,
Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah.
I went through a pretty intense phase of that, like spiritual perfectionism, where I had it in my head that I had to be perfect to find my perfect partner. And I had a really wonderful session with an Akashic reader that I really trust and respect. And I was telling her that this is this thing that's coming up, and I can see it. I can know that that's sounds unreasonable, and I don't even know what perfect is. Perfect isn't real, except what we decide is perfect. You know, like maybe the now moment is just perfect. Maybe what we're receiving is just perfect. But that's different from the ego's perception of perfect. So I remember her telling me, like, your partner will be perfectly imperfect for you. You're gonna heal so much together. It's gonna be messy. That scared me.
Yeah.
Now what are we, like 10 months into our relationship, and I'm like, oh, now I understand what messy meant. It's been messy, but beautiful. But that was really important, I think, for me to get that really clear guidance of there is no perfect here. You're making this up. And like the understanding I came to was I can't be beating myself up trying to wait if he's not here right now. If he's not immediately in my vicinity and I'm not immediately knowing who it is, then it means I'm doing something wrong. That's our brains just love certainty. And we just want to be certain, and we want to control everything.
Yes.
But especially in love, it's just, we just can't. There's so much that is in our control, like attitude and beliefs and healing and our own practices and our own intentions. But yeah, and actually allowing the love that we're seeking. That's another.
Yes.
That's the first point.
Trust, faith,
Yeah.
all of those things I think
Yeah.
sometimes we forget about because
Yeah.
things aren't being, it's the control factor, which comes with perfectionism, which I hear a lot. And I know I can struggle from just that needing to control and make it perfect. And I'm a person who believes in action. So not just sitting and visualizing what you desire, but really taking the actions. So, but when you take an action, like accepting a date, and then you choose to move forward with that relationship, and then that fails or doesn't come to completion as we had expected, it can be much harder because we're trying to control. It's that really letting go all constantly. And for me personally, that is the practice. Is I meditate every day, and a lot of it is this, you have to let go. I give it to my higher self. I give it to my guides to draw in whatever, because my brain only sees this much of what's happening. And I know that if I'm trying to control something, then I could hinder the beauty
Mhm.
that's unfolding, right? And all that healing or new experiences or being pushed to try different things and learn and grow. And I don't know, it can really take the magic away when we control too much, right?
I love everything you just said.
Oh, thanks. I think about it a lot.
Yeah,
So,
clearly. And that's so beautiful because I think you have so much wisdom to share, and I'd love to continue hearing more of your perspective because,
Mhm.
like hindering the beauty, I think I experienced that, waves of. I mean, I currently experience it. We're all like, still, yes, I've had some major manifestations come through, but I'm also still always dreaming or always thinking
Mhm.
about the next day more. And so there's always, oh, how can I do it better?
Yeah.
But especially last year in a time of, I had just started my new business. And so finances were a big old question mark, very tedious and tense sometimes.
Yes.
I was single. I felt like in this intense limbo. And I would go between, I think we need to have grace for ourselves because I would go between these sometimes euphoric feelings of trust and surrender and
Mhm.
joy and bliss and really receiving the message of everything is coming. Like there's no rush. There's divine timing. Like
Yes.
I can't force it. And so resting in that, having these beautiful experiences of like, yeah, I trust that. I appreciate my singlehood right now because I'm not going to have it for very long. This is the
Mhm.
last time in my life had this knowing. It was the last time I have in my life where I'm, or this type of singleness and living on my own, and this phase of life is coming to an end. And so,
Mhm.
right, I love my single life. Let's just enjoy this. Like, I love
Yes.
my independence. I love,
Mhm.
always be independent, but like, yeah. And so I'd go from there to when that feeling would subside, because lo and behold, we're not always in that state of like
Yes.
ethereal bliss all the time. Oh, wait, going into that kind of typical ego mind of, okay, but I'm really uncomfortable with wanting this and it not being here yet. And I'm
Mhm.
telling myself there's something wrong with me and hindering the beauty and
Yeah.
really taking the magic out of it because I started making it like calculations sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was really, yeah, just going back and forth between those states and every state in between.
Mhm.
And actually, I have a really interesting kind of as you've mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, intuition and sensing those moments of synchronicity or
Mhm.
seeing the signs and feeling those intuitive hits and connecting with that magical flow around us is such a huge part of
Mhm.
creation, of manifesting, of, yeah, really our whole lives. It can be so magical when we tap
Mhm.
into that. And was it must have been May, so like 4 months or so after this breakup, I had been going to this kind of conscious spiritual networking group,
Mhm.
networking and collaboration, like community building group called
Mhm.
Gathering of Lightworkers.
Yes.
You know them, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Um, and I had been going to their events. I'd been to a couple and I felt
Mhm.
like, oh, this is great. I felt really aligned and connected. And um, so I went to one just feeling, I remember driving there and feeling so in love. I felt radiant with love.
Oh.
And my mind was like, oh, maybe you're gonna meet your person there tonight. I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like because I was so filled with love.
Yeah.
And but I was also just surrendered. I think it was one of
Mhm.
those heightened states of like, great, cool. I'm glad I feel this way. This is what we're really calling in, right? Is the
Yes.
feeling of love,
Mhm.
whether it's in combination with a partner or kind of in solitude. So that's beautiful. But I went and that's so funny. I remember having the intention, like, I know there's going to be lots of crystals, lots of things to buy. Like, just stop it. Don't go crazy, whatever. No buying.
Yeah.
Like, just stop. And instead, like, I walked in and it was just one of those perfect magic kind of states of, I walked in and one of the vendors was Earthlight Minerals. They're so great. And I went over, I was like, huh. I picked up a specific crystal. I was like, I love this. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, that crystal is an amplifier for Akashic readings. And that's something I had just started practicing a few months prior. And I was like,
Oh,
I was
awesome.
like, just this one? And she said, yeah, you can see there's an Akashic imprint in it. I
Mm.
still don't fully understand what that means, and I picked up all the crystals that looked like it. And I said, like all the other quartz crystals. And I said, what about this one? No. This one? No. This one? No. Oh, this one that I picked up
Yes.
is for, okay, cool. I will receive this. Thank you. And then I walked over. So that was just one little like, oh, wow. Okay. I'm really in a flow. And then I walked over to another person there who was selling these malas, Wanderlust
Yeah.
malas for
Yes.
mailer. Yeah. I had seen her stuff like a year before and found this one for me. Totally
Mhm.
unexpected. I just looked at it, put it on, and was like, this is mine now.
Yeah.
It was just one of those moments. So I had no interest in buying a mala. I love this one. I don't find the need to like get another one right now. But I was just looking at them, like, and I came to one and I had this moment of connection with it.
Yeah.
And the intuitive hit was, it was this process of, this isn't for me. This is for my man. This is for my husband. It scares me to say
Oh,
that.
I just
Like,
got chills.
yeah, and it freaked me out. Yeah, if you know Burma, you could ask her about this.
Mhm.
Because I was like, what? And I kind of pulled it off the rack and I looked at it and I was like, I started having a whole process. I was terrified. I was horrified. I
Yeah.
was disturbed. I was like, all the way to husband. Are you sure? That's a strong word there. It really freaks me out, even though that's what I was calling in, really. But
Yeah.
it still scares me. And Parma was laughing because she just saw me looking at this thing like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand it. And so I asked her, I said, like, can I connect with a mala that's for somebody else that I haven't met with? And she was like, I don't see why not. And so I told her what I was experiencing and she was like, you're having such a strong response. I think this is for real.
Yeah.
And it couldn't, I don't think it, yeah, it was, and I went through this process of like almost being repelled by it. Like, this is weird. But finally, I calmed down and I was like, okay, just like touching it. I was like, this is beautiful. And I like put it on and the impression I had when I put it on was like putting on a boyfriend's sweatshirt or jacket or something like that kind of like
Yeah.
being cozy, safe feeling.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, so I will also be bringing this home.
Yes.
And so what I did with that mala was I used it in meditations. I just kind of like, it wasn't always like intentionally like, praying or meditating on my future person, but I just like carried it around with me.
Yeah.
Kept these two together, kept it with mine.
Yeah.
Brought it on hiking trips, like used it in meditation, things like that. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna trust that this is for my person, and eventually I'll know who and how and when.
Yeah.
But I went from that really high to like a really intense crash. It was a very emotional. Last year was very emotional.
Yeah.
But so it was like I'd have these highs of, yes, I know, and then a low. And I believe those lows were releasing
Yeah.
that kind of heavier energy that just needed to go.
Yeah.
And so when I met him at a Gathering of Lightworkers event
Yeah.
2 months later, it wasn't even that long
Yeah.
from when I found that. And of course, I wasn't sure if it was, I didn't know exactly at that point that was him. He and I had been in the same workshop together the previous December when we were both seeing other people.
Mhm.
And I saw him and like immediately I had but my brain was like, no, he kind of looks like a bro. He's like a frat bro. Like,
Oh.
I put him in some category.
Yeah.
It's like an old, outdated kind of stereotype in my head
Yeah.
of who I thought he was.
Yeah.
It was probably good at the time because he and I were both seeing other people. So, but I just kind of, my brain responded to this with, nope, I
Mhm.
just put him aside. And then I saw him again at the Gathering of Lightworkers in July, and he actually saw me and was like, "Oh, that I want."
Aw.
But he was working through his own worthiness issues, and he almost
Yeah.
didn't go up and talk to me because he was like, "That she's too good for me,"
Yeah.
kind of mentality,
Yeah.
which I'm not. We're great, but he moved through that in like a moment of just, no, this is right, and we connected, and things kind of. He called me a couple weeks later and was just like, "Hey, I'm really interested in you. I'm a mess emotionally, but I'm interested in you, and I just want to let you know that." And it was
Mhm.
so refreshing that somebody would just say that. And I also thought I was super intense. I was like, cool,
Yeah.
great. So yeah, we had some epic long dates where, oh, we're just gonna hang out as friends just to get to know each other. And then like 6 hours later, we're like, in some
Yes.
deep rabbit hole. So I then, as we connected more and more, he was saying, at the beginning when we first started to get to know each other, he had felt like he wasn't ready for our relationship. And I was like, well, I'm ready. And
Yeah.
then the deeper we got in connection with each other, he was like, oh, I'm ready and it's you. And I was like, I was terrified. It was
Aw.
like a great opportunity for me to face all these actual deep fears that I had about
Mhm.
being in a really committed relationship where we were
Mhm.
really, really like long-term thinking and
Yeah.
investing together. So that's kind of how all that started.
Did you give him the beads?
I did. So
Okay.
so it took me a little while.
Okay.
Of course. I mean, it was actually quite quick if you think about it, but
Mhm.
I think we started hanging out in August. We were like official by end of August, and his birthday is in October.
Mhm.
And I was really feeling into it. I was trying not to rush myself. He kept on saying, like, I love your mala. I really want a mala, but I just haven't found the right one yet. And I would just say, yeah, definitely just really feel it out. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to just get any old mala. Like,
Yeah.
really, yeah. And on his birthday, I told him the story and gave
Mhm.
it to him, and he was crying. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, and so we've had kind of a whirlwind, intense, deep dive relationship, and we're kind of coming to this place of really beautiful stability and growth and just, yeah, settling in after a lot of figuring each other out and figuring ourselves out and going,
Yeah.
especially him going through some really deep healing processes that he really needed, and myself too, but he's
Yeah.
just been through some more stuff more recently. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I feel like I went on quite a storytelling rabbit hole, also giving space for all that because it really is like, just looking back, it's like when you're in it, it takes so long.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
but between ending one relationship and being like, I am so completely ready for my person,
Mhm.
and then like eventually being ready, sort of. Um,
And then being afraid when
and
that
then being
person presents themselves.
terrified,
Yes.
terrified. It was only 5.5 months till I actually met him.
Mhm.
That's not very long.
No.
So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. I love how the it's like the signs, right? Like the beads and the messages that we receive. And if we would just tune in more to that when we get worried or fearful, I think it does make the process a little more beautiful, or I don't know. I mean, there's so much to learn in all of that of just being present. And like you said, you received that immense feeling of love, that those really high feelings of love without having somebody there, you know?
Very true.
And that's sort of where I think we all would love to be all the time, regardless of what's coming in or out, and then create from that space. But sometimes we get down, and that's
Yeah,
okay too.
and
Give
it is
yourself grace
okay.
and
Yeah.
time and the space to work it out and unravel whatever you need to unravel, and that's okay. That's not feeding into that perfectionism of the spiritual perfectionism of,
Mhm.
oh, I can't feel like this because it will repel what I'm trying to manifest. I have to always be loving and grateful and positive. And I think in some ways, those frequencies and vibrations of love, yes, that's where we want to be, ideally. But this world is a world of duality and very challenging, and we need to heal and overcome so much from our lives that just being present and allowing those moments of all the stuff that comes up that may be the opposite of loving or grateful or whatever it may be is also really important in the manifesting journey. And people don't often talk about that part of it. So thank you for sharing. I think it's important for everyone to know that, we're creating all the time and we can create in love and feeling blissful and also going through our downtimes and letting go and then inviting in
Yeah.
what we choose to invite in.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you just said, the letting go, the fear of feeling negative feelings and how that will affect our manifestation, I think is really real. Just spiritual world.
Oh, yeah.
And what I keep learning, whether it's through reading different sources or different practices or just my internal experiences, there's nothing wrong with any emotion, nothing at all.
No.
It's just how do we interact with it? So if I have a negative emotion or emotion I don't like coming up, do I judge it and shove it down or resist it? And how do that's the issue, really. Because the more I kind of resist it or deny it, the more it actually takes root in me. And
Yes.
and so it's never a problem to feel a negative emotion. It's just how we react to it. So that's something I feel like is a constant learning for me, and it's something I bring into my practices personally and then professionally and with my clients as well. As okay, how are we resisting our own experience out of fear of having that experience?
Yeah.
And so I love that you said letting go, because ultimately it's like letting go with compassion and love and grace and just acceptance of what's happening, letting go of the resistance.
Yes.
I guess is how to move through those. And then you move through them, and then on the other side of that, there's more space for those beautiful, loving feelings that we want.
Yeah.
Which we also sometimes resist. Sometimes we resist the beautiful things, the love, the peace, the forgiveness. So
all of it. We resist
Yeah.
a lot of things.
this is a heck of a lot of things. Yeah.
As you were talking, I was thinking about, I have 2 toddler boys, and when they're that age and they have a lot of emotion, they're just big emotions on 2 little legs. So they can be loving and happy, or they can be sad and they can get really angry. And as their mother, you allow that. You want them to be able to express their emotion and not feel guilty or ashamed. So you do your best to sit with them, allow it, provide them space, and then hug them when they're ready to be hugged, and then talk to them when they're ready to be talked to. And as you were talking about the experience of feeling the negative emotions, I thought, wow, that's actually self-love, allowing yourself to feel those feelings and giving yourself the space. And then when you feel ready, loving yourself and loving those feelings, seeing what they can teach you, and then you move on, because it's okay. You don't judge yourself. The guilt and shame that can come from feeling like you always have to be happy or positive, it can make depression and anxiety so much worse because you're just constantly suppressing. And then on top of that, you're judging, and it just
Judge
creates
yourself for
this.
judging.
Yes.
That's another cool thing that we do.
Yes, the cycle.
I'm supposed to be spiritual and non-judgmental. I can't believe I just judged myself for judging myself for judging myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, it can be a cycle. But there's also, this is a whole other conversation, but there's also judgment, and then there's discernment, right? Which are, I think, can sometimes get very confused.
Yeah.
And being a person who likes to be very accepting, sometimes that can water down the boundaries because you're like, well, I don't want to be judgmental, but then you do need to be discerning. So
and it's okay to have preference.
It's okay to
I
have preference.
I feel like you
Yes.
and I have a lot of similarities because this has been so part of my journey as well of,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want to be accepting of everyone and I want to give people a chance. And yeah, I have a lot of people pleasing tendencies, but
Yes, me too.
coming from a caring nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a defense mechanism, as much of it can be bit of, programming and patterning from childhood, but
Yeah.
a lot of it really is just like, oh, I just love people, right? And
Yeah.
I imagine you're the same. I just
You don't want to
yeah,
be mean, or you don't want to hurt people,
yes,
or you don't want them to get mad at you. And
exactly. That adds a whole other.
yeah.
It's complicated as
Mm-hmm.
that.
But then you're drained and you're
Yeah.
overwhelmed, or you have people in your life that you think, I don't necessarily want these people in
Yeah.
my life. How did I get here?
This is happening.
Yeah.
Oh, because I didn't actually acknowledge that I might, love them through the eyes of the divine.
Yeah.
I don't actually like them.
Yeah.
Or connect with them or resonate with them. Or
Mm-hmm.
we can have great, acquaintance like relationships with people, and then it maybe it's not meant to be closer. Great
Mm-hmm.
co-working relationships with people, but
Yeah.
just yeah, that discernment and preference are not necessarily judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
it's
true.
tricky.
Mm-hmm. It is tricky. And it's putting more tools in your
Yeah.
toolbox. Like when my husband and I were dating, we would get in a lot of debates about things, or there were
Mhm.
things I thought, why do you do that? And he would
Mhm.
think the same. And I don't remember where this came from, but I realized we never really sat down and talked about what our values were, like what we really value. And I didn't even really know what I valued in life. And so we both sat down separately and wrote down our top values, things we really value in life. And they were so opposite in some ways. Like, obviously, we valued family and friendship and honesty and
Mhm.
trust, the things that are very important. But there were also things very important on the top of my list that were not on his list at all, and vice versa. So it helped us to learn to communicate a little better and just acknowledge, oh, that's really important to you. Let me help you with that value that you have. But even with friends or people, I've learned over time that, oh, I need to surround myself with people who have similar values. And it's okay if they don't have the same values,
Mhm.
and it's okay for me to say, hey, I think that's cool, but I don't need to have that relationship
Mhm.
because we're not going to be on the same page about things, or whatever it may be. And that was still a hard lesson
Mhm.
to do that. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I think as you were describing that part of, connecting with people you have similar values with versus not, I think one of the kind of one of the ways that one of the biggest sources of information, I guess, when I'm in a relationship with somebody is like, do I feel like I can really be myself?
Mhm.
Because I'm very good at being a bit of a chameleon,
Yes.
and there's nothing wrong with that. There can be a lot of truth to that. We're all multifaceted.
Yes.
Different sides of me can come out in different settings. True of everyone, right? But am I am I kind of am I afraid to be a part of myself with that person?
Mhm.
That's interesting. And is
Yeah.
it just me? Am I making an assumption? Or is this actually like, no, they're not actually a safe person to be
Mhm.
that part of me with. So sometimes I can have connections with people who are very different from me and still have that sense of acceptance. Like even if we have, I mean, you gotta have some of the same values, but even if we have different ideas about, you know, worldviews and all these things, we can still connect because of the acceptance. And
Mhm.
when I say that, I think of some of my longer term friends and family members who, like as we've grown and evolved, we've, kind of gone in different ways, but there's enough of that
Mhm.
connection, care, and love
Yeah.
that actually we're accepted. We both
Yeah.
accept each other.
That makes sense.
But in new relationships and new friendships, like in my adulthood, yeah, I don't find myself wanting to devote a lot of energy and time if there's not just that flow and that connection. And some relationships take longer than others, and that's
Yeah,
great. But yeah,
it's
it's
true.
important.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything. And I think it's a beautiful story. And I'm excited to hear how your relationship develops
Thank
and
you.
more magic, I'm sure.
Thank you.
So tell us again how we find you, just one more time.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Juli_Heart Alchemy. That's
Mhm.
the name of kind of my overarching business. You can also find me at heartalchemy.one, O-N-E. And you can find, if you're interested in kind of the range of things that I do. But I also have my purely counseling website, which is soulrisecounseling.one, which is just another avenue to connect with me. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I think I would love to have you come here and do Akashic readings too. I don't know if you can do them in a group or
Oh, I've never tried in a group,
yeah.
but why the heck not?
Yeah, that would be really
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually, I think some of the things you were saying, I was like, oh man, we're so aligned in kind of how we view things,
Yeah.
because I also have a workshop that's, I think of it as like the inner dance of
Oh, I love that.
basically what you were describing, how I go through things too, of really connecting with the resistance within me to whatever's going on, and connecting then with the deeper emotions that are just wanting to be felt and experienced that I tend to repress. So I know what that is for me. It's different for everybody, but yeah, I have a workshop.
Is that workshop online or in
It's
person or
in person currently.
Mhm.
I'll be working on a kind of online version
Yeah.
that can be, easily accessible. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a kind of a culmination of lots and lots of one-on-one client sessions where I realized every client I have, I go through this process with. I need to create a bit of
Yeah.
a group session
Yeah.
for people to just
Have a
learn about this
roadmap.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, because
It's so nice to learn from other people and what other people do and just have more tools in your toolbox, more processes to figure out
so
how to
helpful.
navigate because I don't want to sound negative, but I think a lot of things we've been taught are old school. I'll put it that way. And so the new teachings are coming in. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Having new tools from workshops and classes and
yeah.
teachers, and it's really important.
It's often what I keep finding is I'll come across new or old teachers, but new to me, and there's like a through line of simplicity that I keep coming to. A lot of it has
Yes.
to do with letting go of resistance.
Yes.
A lot of it has to do with, yeah, presence in the moment, accepting what is, judgment of the self and others. It so much gets complicated,
Yes.
and it all comes back to that, and love.
Yep. Yes. I would. 100%. Simplicity is key. And I think that people are starting to come to that conclusion. And then those concepts that you're talking about, although they sound so simple, and in the past, they've been kind of like, oh, love, oh, presence, but we're finding that they're actually powerful
Yeah.
and important and can be integrated in our lives in so many
Yeah.
different ways that they're not so simple. They're actually very dynamic and
Yeah.
magical.
Yeah.
So,
And we can get caught up in all the different ways that people are, for better or for worse, telling us how to get to those things.
yeah.
Love and presence and letting go. But yeah, I notice for me, I want to get more and more academic information that I can learn about. But at the end of the day, just like you meditate every day, you're doing it. Like that's the thing. That's the
Yeah.
thing is we have to do it. We have to do the
Yes.
thing. And that's what I tell my clients often. Give them a lot of that kind of educational academic information so that they can understand it. But then at the end of the day, I give them really simple practices to do on their own. And it can feel unsatisfying to the mind that we want it to be so complicated, but
No, keep it simple.
Practices are really simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Baby steps are okay.
So,
Sometimes a
and
baby
gotta-
step can trigger something really big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's that foundation. Like, we just have to keep coming back to it. Just like we need food, water, air, and shelter.
Yes,
We need
we
these
do.
basics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to having you back, and I appreciate your time
Thank you.
and your wisdom. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much for
Say
sharing.
bye.